Hello there, everybody. How's it going? Hopefully all is well on your end. So let me turn down the volume for me because it's a little bit loud on my end, the music. Also, I went ahead and changed up the game, so it should now say Red Dead Redemption 2. Also, thank you so much for the sub, Haunted. I believe it's 2 months now, yes? Thank you. I appreciate you. Also, I hope you guys enjoy the new Animal Crossing music. I'll start like 20, 30 minutes early. Yeah. Yeah, today I was like, you know what? We're going to start early. What happened was, can't hear the music? Really? Hold on. I'm going to, I think I know what happened. Let me turn this up a little bit more. Let's bring it up to 36 there. That's 36? Oh, that's 30. There we go. I think you should be able to hear it now. Yeah, there we go. I think I fixed it now. I turned on the stream on my phone so I could hear it. And yes, you can hear it now. Awesome. My Twitch has been wild lately. I've had some streams I can't hear at all. Somewhere I can hear some things. Aw, oh no. Just in time, I guess. I ordered some. Oh, hell yeah, Nye. Get that food. I haven't eaten yet, and that's mostly because I was not hungry when I got home. I ate. I got some stuff from the vending machine at work. Yeah, like kind of like a big bag of cookies. It was like my first time I've gotten something kind of like quote unquote bad recently, and I got kind of full from it. So yeah, I'm gonna eat after I stream. I just wasn't feeling it. I was like really full, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to eat right now. It's nasty. Hey there, Landmine. How's it going? How are you? Hopefully your day's going well. What did you just finish eating, Kai? I'm doing well. Today was I think the worst kinds of days for me are not even days that are considered like bad or whatever, but more like days that are boring. Boring days I think are the worst. So yeah, today was like a boring day. It's like it didn't matter, like, I mean, it's just work, right? I mean, I can't change my work and how it is. It just is how it is. But yeah, it was very boring, and so because of that, it just like dragged. It felt like the day just didn't want to end. That was super lame. But yeah. But I'm doing better now. I got home and I immediately just jumped into bed. And it's so weird because it's like those things when it feels like I didn't even sleep. But apparently I did because a whole hour passed. So during that time, I feel like I reset, like my emotions reset a little bit, and I was able to just kind of like enjoy my time off work now. Also, why is your face burning, Landmine? Hey there, kitty. You better get some veggies. I should get some veggies. Although I will say this, my lunch this week consists of salads, so I kind of had a whole bunch of veggies earlier. It was a basic salad though. It was like literally mostly lettuce. It was like a Caesar salad. I'm not a big fan of that one. And I will do my best to eat something right after Nina. Also, hey there, Sunflower. What's up? How's it going? Boring days allow the quiet thoughts get loud. Yes, I'd say yes. Lettuce is crispy water. That's true. That is true. Straight to bed. Yep. I don't do that often. I think what it was is that it's just hot, right? It's summer now. Can't stand it. And the thought of going home and then recording, which I had to record, but I didn't. But that's because I'm gonna switch over. But that's because I decided to just move over my recording times and switch over to record double on Saturday. So I have 2 new Magic Wave scripts that I gotta record. And instead of doing one today and one on Saturday, I figured I'll knock them out back to back. You called into work today? Oh, hell yeah. Do what you gotta do, kitty. That's what I'm talking about. It's 8:39 a.m. here where I live, and I'm not ready to start work. I get you. I get you, Sunflower. Usually I don't feel like I can't go to work. Like I don't want to go to work. I usually feel fine. Also, I cannot hear my sub stuff. Oh, I say thank you so much for the 15 months. Appreciate you. Did the little subscription thing come up? I didn't see it. I did not see the little thingy come up. Did you guys see it? You heard it? Okay. It's just me. I wasn't looking at my screen. So, and I had my volume on my monitor low, and that's where I hear my stuff, the alerts. Yes, thank you so much. 15 months nigh. Usually love my job, but the management has been shitting on everything. Yeah, this whole last year for me has been basically that, where like for all the years that I have worked at my job, which has been many years, this last year, and I'm talking about like not just 2026, but like since fall of last year, has just been poopy. Absolute garbage tier. So yeah, have not been having a good time with that. So I feel you. And as for the alerts, I don't know why they're not showing up. Let me see. Let me test one out. Hold on. I'm gonna test out one of these alerts and see if it works. Because I didn't see it. Let's go with this one, because this one's my favorite one.
This greed sickens me.
Oh, there we go. It is showing up. Okay, that's weird. I don't know why. It'd be good. It's a little loud though, so I'll lower it to there. Okay. So then, we're gonna be cowboys today. We're gonna play some Red Dead Redemption. As I mentioned on my message, on my little voice message on Discord this morning, I'm already halfway through the game. So I mentioned how despite that, there's really not a whole lot of like stuff that sorry. I'm like distracted. The story is pretty straightforward. It's like super straightforward. You're a bunch of outlaws just literally on the run. A job went bad at the beginning of the game. And so you and your group, which is kind of a large group, you kind of have like a little camp on the outskirts of like the various towns. And you just do a bunch of like just missions just to make money and get you through. And that's kind of it. You get a little bit of flavor between the dynamics of the relationships between some of the characters with each other and some of their backstory, but it doesn't really matter all that much. It's more just like the experience. I met with the assistant director last week for a last-ditch effort to improve things, so we'll see. Oh, well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, all right? Bro is notoriously bad at accents. Boppo, I agree. I would say I am notoriously bad. And Boppo, is this Requiem? Cowboy Carter, Beyonce tease, GG's Beyonce on Red. Oh, okay, cool. Boppo's allowed to say that my accents are not the best. We can see, as the game goes on, we'll see if I do an accent or not. I am Psychic Boppo. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pause this music. I'm gonna switch over to the game. I hope everything works. So let's see if this works. I switched everything over a little while ago. All right, cool. There we go. So we should be in business. All right, you guys are gonna have to let me know about the volume of the game.
Time to play the game.
Time to play the game. Also, my
Time to play the
controller.
game.
All right, please tell me that the battery's not gonna die. All right. So let me hold on real quick. Hold up. Let me. Oh my fuck. This fucking mouse. See, these are the reasons why I don't usually play. Like PC games while I'm streaming, because then I have issues when I'm trying to change shit up. What the hell? Like, my mouse keeps disappearing. All right, here we go, here we go. All right, nope, that's not what I want. That's the mouse there. Okay, there we go. I got it. All right, so I think the game is very low. So I'm going to raise it up higher, and I'm hoping it should be good. All right. I raised it up a little bit. I need to charge the battery for the controller. It has rechargeable batteries, and so I was hoping that that would work. Also, the batteries did die. Okay, hold on. BRB. I need to get another set of batteries, and I gotta hope that they work, because if not, then I guess we're not playing this right. So, hold on. I usually always have another set charging, so hold up. All right, so I have two other. Okay, I mentioned how I have a battery charger, and it usually is charging another set. For some reason, it was in a drawer instead. I don't know why I put it there. But let's see if these batteries work, because if not, these batteries are not working. Yeah, Boppo, they can be kind of dumpster fires at times, so I get you. PC Master Race with a corded controller. Can I plug this in? I'm pretty sure I can. All right, hold up. We're gonna have to. Oh wait, no. This is USB-C. I only have one USB-C port on my PC, and that is for my microphone, which is kind of important. So, all right, hold on. Trying to think. Yep. It's funny because this whole last week that I've been playing this game for maybe like 2 weeks. Never had to charge the controller, and I kept saying to myself, "Oh, these batteries have lasted a good while." But yeah, anyway, this is the mouse controllers. I am definitely not playing the game with mouse controls, because this is hard. So I have no idea any of the other buttons. So no thank you. How do I even pull up the weapons? Oh, there you go. That's how you do it. How do you move to select your weapons? Oh, it's like the wheel? All right, there we go. If I shoot my horse. How do you run? Oh, shift? Oh, okay. The buttons are pretty intuitive. But I'm not going to do this, because this is very annoying. What are the... Okay, that's the map. What is... Oh, it's not tab. No. No, that's that. What would be... I'm trying to see what would be the other stuff. Yes, what's up? Don't shoot the horse? I'm not going to shoot the horse. What's up, Nye? Did he run away? Where did he go? Oh, he's over there. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So it doesn't look like we're going to play this game. Oops. All right, hold on. This is what we're going to do. We're going to move over here. I'm going to turn the music back on, but hold on. Let me move this lower so that way it doesn't blow everybody's ears out. There we go. And we're just going to turn that off. Yep. Maybe this is just a just talking stream.
I'm upset.
Can I go back to the menu to see the config? I don't even know. That was my thing. I didn't even know how to go back to the because there's like multiple menus, and I didn't know how to get back to the other one. Yeah. Whoops. Sorry, guys. I mean, I could just wait until the batteries charge and maybe play a little bit. We'll see.
Your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the heat flow through
It's been one of those days. It's been one of those days, guys. I'm gonna switch this over to just chatting. How about that? Let's just chat. Let's just be cool with each other. How about that? I'm pretty sure I could possibly use the Pro Controller. Let me see. Can you use a Pro Controller as a PC controller? I guess you can. I guess you can. You just have to add it as a Bluetooth controller. I am in those moods right now where I don't even want to do that. Did I hear the rumor about butter? What is the rumor about butter? I also had an old PlayStation 4 controller that I used to use like exclusively for PC stuff, and then it just died one day. I guess it didn't spread. Nice. That one's pretty good. That one's pretty good. Where's my other sound? Yes, I was just about to hit the joke drums. I was about to hit the joke drums myself. Anyway, thank you for being patient with me, guys, because today was one of those days. Today was one of those days where it just felt like, I don't know, like as like, for those who have seen, who follow me, oh gosh, Zeal coming in, 16 months, appreciate you. But for those who are like seeing my stories and stuff like that, it's like, I always feel, I love me some GG. I always feel weird about posting things that are more personal, because I feel like I always try to let there be sort of like a separation between, I don't know, like my online life and also like my RLL life, right? And so but it's really hard to do that, right? Especially when a lot of my like reasons for doing audios to begin with has a lot to do with who I am, how I came to be, right? So a lot of that is like, well, how do I separate the two when they kind of inform each other, right? Like quite directly. What are we talking about? So I posted some stuff, Bappo, I posted some stuff on Instagram. Just kind of like saying some stuff about, like, I found, what I hate is I found myself like on a corner of Instagram Reels where the algorithm, it's like, oh, you like this one post. How about we fucking drown you in that type of post, right? So for instance, it's like childhood trauma caused by your parents. How about we just give you 30 reels in a row of that shit, right? And then there are some that, you know, I relate to. So then I'll share a little bit of my experience, and I don't really feel like doing it all the time, right? Like I'll see it, I might like it, but I won't like ever post it or like put it as a story. But I kind of felt like doing it, right? I kind of had meant for a good long while on the podcast to devote like a featured presentation to talking about my background, talking about some people or characters or things that I relate a whole lot to, that can give a better understanding of the type of person I am, right? Usually, Bappo, when it comes to the algorithms, and yes, I hate algorithms too, Nina. Usually if you leave the app, like if you just like close it all the way out, usually it resets at least a little bit. Also, Angel says, yeah, I was low-key worried about you, but I didn't want to make you feel weird by sending a message. But that said, I'm sending you some positive. Oh, thank you. Low-key, I wanted to send you something, but didn't want to be awkward. Oh, you guys are sweet. I had to start blocking that stuff because sometimes trauma brain goes, nope, can't make it, and make it stop. Yes, stupid algorithms all day. Yeah, it's like, it's nice to know that you're not alone with the things that you've gone through. But then I think sometimes when it comes to me, it's like a lot of my stuff is even worse than the stuff you find on there. Like, for instance, like one of the posts that I shared yesterday was like, oh, you're an eldest daughter because you went through all this stuff. And it's like a common trope, right? The whole eldest daughter thing. You kind of had to be very independent, do your own thing. Your parents were like kind of shitty because they had no idea what they were doing. And I was not at all like, you know, the oldest kid. Like my sister was literally the oldest kid because she was the eldest daughter. And so she had to be very independent and stuff like that. But she, not to get too like, I don't think I've ever gone too deep on a lot of my own personal history. And I've kind of, you know, I like I said, it's keeping the, I don't know if I want to say persona, right? Because I have said that before. Because when I think of the persona of like GG, I think of like Reddit GG, right? Where like there's hardly any personality to Gentle Geek on Reddit. It is just the audios, right? But then when, like, for instance, now, like after I started the Patreon and now like, you know, streaming, there's a lot more of me, right? And I've mentioned that. I even talked about it on the last podcast where it was one of the reasons why I really wanted to start streaming, because I wanted people to see me for me and not just the persona, right? So again, after a while, over time, it starts to get a little muddy in terms of like, well, how much of myself do I share? How far do I take it? Because I don't want to go into everything, right? And one of the things that was like my one of my rules, like early on, was anytime I had something that was like sad, like overtly sad, I didn't want to post it or share it because I felt it didn't do anything. It didn't make me feel better. It felt like it could make people understand me more, and that's nice, right? But I didn't want people to feel bad or sad for me. That was like my thing, because one of the things that like that happens with me in general, I don't really feel better when people tell me, you know, nice things about me. It's kind of like growing up, my family were not like huggers and weren't very physical. And it's like if I get let's imagine, right? Let's just throw a scenario. Just pretend like I'm really down and out and somebody's like, you could use a hug. Instead, I'm like, no, get away from me. I don't want a hug. It's gonna make it feel awkward, and I don't even want the hug. I'm gonna feel worse because I'm gonna feel like you had to do something to try to make me feel better, and it's probably gonna make you feel better more than it does me, right? So it's kind of like those things, and so that's why I mentioned in one of the posts that I put is like when people send me nice things, because I've received, I'm not, and again, this is not calling anybody out whatsoever. Also, hey there, Bard, what's up? How's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. And it's not your fault. It's more like me. I haven't really like even streamed that often. So that is no shade to you. I'd love having you here. If it's any consolation, I sent one of the ones you posted last night, the Elder, though of course I didn't send your story, just the reel itself, to my friends and said hi to your mom, and they reacted with it. Very much not alone. A lot of it seemed like it would resonate with them. No, yes. No, that's good. Like, as always, I like it when people can resonate and relate to my experience, right? Exactly. I do feel like your persona and IRL self are almost the same. Yeah, the Venn diagram is almost a perfect circle at this point. It's just more context is missing, I guess. That's it, right? Like the history. I think the only difference is that no one knows what you look like. That's true also. That's why I hearted one of your stories and moved on, because I didn't want to harp on anything. Sending love now. I never want to make it. Oh, no. I appreciate it. And like I said, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, because absolutely no one did anything wrong. I am just a very unique individual. So I never put it on anybody else to try to understand me or go out of their way to make me feel better, because it is very, very difficult for anyone to make me feel better. Like, ever. Doesn't matter who you are. Because a lot of the stuff that I went through growing up, and the stuff that has caused me to feel bad, or when I have a really off day, is stuff that was caused by my parents. And when I think about it now, it's like those are the only people who would ever make me feel better about it if they apologized or, whatever. And as I mentioned on my post, and as you guys know, like, my father passed away years ago. So it's like, there is nothing there, right? And that at times can be very sad, right? But then the thing is, like, I am an estranged person from my family, so I don't really like talk to my family. Also, real quick, Bard says, I've been desperately trying to catch a stream to say the Spurs flopping so hard, and then getting a KH4 trailer made me think, well, thank you. I appreciate it, Bard. Because the fucking Spurs, man, the Spurs sold. They sold so hard. Like, I was rooting for the Spurs, but by the end of that series, I was like, man, fuck the Spurs. I was like, y'all had a chance to win it. Y'all gave up every single game. Every single game that you lost, you could have won. And there is nobody to blame except yourself, right? It's like the meme of like the clown, like somebody putting clown makeup on, right? That's what happened to the Spurs. And so, like, as every game kept going, I was like, no, yeah, hell yeah, Knicks. Like, the Knicks, that's a professional basketball team. The Spurs, I don't know what they are, but they were not who I thought they were. But it was still a really, it was a fun series to watch. And then, yes, the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, ooh, it was on. I have been on a Kingdom Hearts, like, vibe lately. Been listening to music, been watching videos. I went back this past weekend. I watched like a ton of like all the opening songs, all the endings. Like, I was into it. So I'm glad you thought about me, Bard. And no worries. You didn't derail anything. Probably for the same trauma reasons, I am a seriously touchy person. My parents kind of bailed on me, and I feel like I needed to be physical with affection, hugs, etc. So I know they won't leave me, not trying to make it. No, of course not. No, this is good. I like the idea that people can share their own things, right? Because how often do people really get to like talk about things like this, right? So it's good. Sometimes I feel like there isn't anything that could, oh my gosh, I don't know that word. Ameliorate? I don't think I've ever heard that word. The pain or make it better, not retribution, but an apology. There is no better. Yes. Heart dark. Yes, I feel it. I always say I'm so incredibly proud at how much you've grown compared to how you were when you first started posting. Word of the day. Yes, that is a word of the day. Thank you so much, Boppo. Cause yeah, I have definitely grown and become a stronger person. I have recognized patterns in myself that enable me to not like spiral, because I can spiral like nobody's fucking business. I can go from, oh my gosh, if this didn't happen to me, this wouldn't be happening, this wouldn't be happening, this wouldn't be happening, that other thing wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened, that wouldn't have happened. Oh my gosh, I just realized that that also wouldn't have happened if this hadn't happened. And it just goes on and on and on. And then throughout it all, it's like, none of it was my fault. It was other people. So I think that's another thing that's really important here. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me go ahead and read some of the chat. How do you say it? Is it ameliorate? I want to say Amelia. Got it. Hey there, Rusty. Here at 11 Celsius. So imagine that meme, like closes your shirt, you'll get cold. I would love it for it to be cold. 11 Celsius is what in Fahrenheit? Do I have a tab open? Yeah, let's look this up. It is 51. Ooh, that sounds so nice. Rusty, send that over to me, please. I would appreciate it. Because I need me some cold weather. It's too hot here. Let's see here. You're not the only one, GG. Spiraling is crazy bad, and hindsight is 2020. I relate to that so hard. No kidding. Like you guys, he had such a hard time picking himself up when he got super upset. He'd get so upset. I didn't get upset at you, Babo. I would get upset that it. Okay, never mind. I would get upset. Okay, you want to know what gets me upset? I would get upset when then I would hear other people's experience and it was nowhere near as hard as mine was. With like everything, right? Like everything in terms of just like, I wasn't, and that was the thing, Bappo, like I wasn't mad at you, right? I was just mad at the idea that like, how to say this? It was like every little thing was wrong. That it was really hard to even find the good things, you know? So it was really tough. So it really felt like, imagine me as like, instead of spiraling, I was just a Jenga tower. All you needed to do is remove one block and all those blocks were gonna be coming down one after another. Freedom units, yes. Otherwise, I don't know. Yeah, I can imagine one thing that happened when I was literally a year old and nothing in my life would have happened. Sending it over my ass is not made for the cold. Sending it over my ass is not made for the cold. It's interesting for me. I do terrible in the cold. Hardcore terrible in the cold. But the thing is with the cold is that you can keep putting things on. And as long as you have like a nice living situation with a nice like heating, like if your house is not freezing, then I feel like it's very doable to exist in the cold. But the heat, oh my gosh, fuck the heat. People who say I miss high school and I go, why? Yes, me too. I was one of those, yeah. Hey again, if it's any consolation, one of my friends can be the same way. It's very human with such heavy shit, not an excuse if you're shitty, but an explanation. Oh, yes. I have a mental image of a Jenga tower just falling over and exploding. That's even better. I think that is better, the exploding part. In high school, I was that weirdo who wore shorts and flip-flops while walking to school. Oh, really? How about that? You could handle it. Not me. I prefer cold to hot. Maybe that's because I'm a winter baby. I'm a winter baby too, but I can't handle it. Cold is better than hot. When it gets hot, you can only... yes! Otherwise, you're just dying. The heat sucks. You can't peel your skin off. No, you cannot. Where I live, we don't get snow, so no inner heating in houses, but I think I must have circulation, like bad circulation, because I'm always freezing. I'm also a little bit... it's really weird. I run hot in general. But then at the same time, I also get really cold easily. Like my hands and my extremities will be really cold. And I think that's more of an anxiety thing, where I get really nervous and that happens to me. I'm a summer baby, and though I do like summer, I much prefer cooler temps. Definitely the type to not talk about what is going on in my life to anyone. I'll be going through the hardest week of my life and just be like, oh my God, that sucks. Your coffee was made with 2 sugars. Yes, that was me. Okay, yes. So that's what I'm talking about. Like when people go through their things and I'm like, I never want to demean other people's problems, right? And make it's kind of like when you're talking to kids, right? Like I remember as a kid, my dad basically saying, oh, you have no problems. Because, I mean, to him, my problems were nothing. But as a kid, my problems are my entire world because my world is so small as a kid, right? So it's really tough to not worry about those things when you're a child, right? But to have someone demean them or devalue them and make them not a big deal sucks. So I don't ever really like to think of telling people that their problems are not real problems because to them they are. But when I would hear some people talk about their stuff, I'd be like, get some real problems. Because I was just like, y'all don't know. Y'all don't know. Like, for instance, like one of the ones, the reels that I shared yesterday was, it's like a reel of like this dad like showing up and being like, hey, can you come outside and help me do some crazy shit, right? It's like, we're gonna move the yard an inch over. And it's like, what? Or it's like, we're gonna build a new foundation on the house, right? But it's like, hey, can you help me? It's like that kind of stuff, right? And everybody in the comments is like, oh yeah, man, it was like crazy, blah, blah, my dad, blah, blah, and I would do this thing, and I'm just standing there with the tools, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, get some problems. Because that was me. But like growing up, like when you think of weekends as a kid, like weekends are badass, right? Like it's like, oh, I get some time off, hang out with friends. And it was like, no, ever since I was like little, it was always about like, not little, but like, let's say like once I got a little bit of teenage strength. So let's say once I was like, okay, never mind. It was, now I'm looking back and I'm like, wait a minute. Me and my brothers used to go to my dad's side job since we were like 7, 8. And help in stupid ways. Anyway, once I became a teenager, that's when I could actually like help more. So on the weekends, it was like Saturday, 6 a.m., no warning whatsoever. It's just freaking like throws the door open, throws the blinds open to let all the light in. So it's like military style, right? And like, get up, get ready in like 20 minutes. Your mom's in the kitchen making you food. Eat right now because we're leaving in like 20, 30 minutes. So you need to be ready and out. And it would be like, but it's the weekend. And my dad would be like, it's the weekend for me too, but I have to work. So it was just always like that, right? So yeah. That was one of the things. And so like we'd be working with my dad and it'd be a billion different things. It could be installing sprinklers on, because these were all side jobs that he would get from people. So it would be like, you know, installing sprinklers in someone's yard, like literally digging out small little trenches to then pipe freaking sprinklers and do that. Or like, oh, we're going to help someone's like electrical job. We're going to do an electrical job. So we have to like install some lights and shit like that. So you're going to handle the breakers. I'm going to tell you to turn them off. You're going to do all this shit, right? Or we're literally fixing up and patching up somebody's roof, right? Or we're replacing someone's toilet. We're installing a bathtub in someone's house. We're going to make a new room for somebody in their house. So we got to take all this drywall. Oh, we're replacing the ceiling in somebody's roof. So do you know how heavy like carrying drywall is as like a 14, 15-year-old, and you have to hold it over your head, and my dad is holding it over his head, holding it with the top of his head up against, and also we're on ladders, really tall ladders, right? And he's holding it with his head and one hand, and then he has the drill in his other hand. the power drill in his hand, and there he goes, and then he's holding like, you know, the freaking screws in his mouth, right? So that kind of stuff. Or painting. We used to paint the outsides of houses, the insides of houses. We used to do popcorn ceilings. We used to texture walls too. So like you'd install the drywall, and then after that you would texture the walls, and then after that you would paint it, all in separate days. So sometimes this would be like weeks long projects, right? Trying to think of other stuff that we used to do. We used to do freaking everything. And it was just that, it costs money to do these kind of jobs by professionals, but my dad knew how to do we installed carpet into people's houses, installed tile in people's houses. And then my mom used to get super, super mad because she always said that like our house was falling apart and would always like put more effort into other stuff instead of our own house. But it made sense because we weren't even at home, right? So like my childhood had nothing to do with like weekends. It was like, weekends? What? So like the idea of like having time off was never a thing, right? I remember it as a little kid, right? When I was like 6. But later on, that kind of went away. And so, yes, also Boppo, if you guys ever want a one-to-one, I am saying a literal one-to-one, a literal one-to-one like copy of how my dad and who my dad was, it was Joe Jackson. It was Michael Jackson's dad. Full on. Everything to a T. To the way like the family was scared of him, to the way he would like whip us and beat us, to the way that we had to do everything he said on the dot, right? There was no questioning it, to the way that my mom would not question it. It was just like, that's how I was raised, And so like growing up, and then on top of that, he used to drink like crazy, and he wasn't like a drunk, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like just falling over himself or whatever. He used to just drink and just be really quiet. So it was kind of like the opposite of you think of when people are like, really, like a drunk parent, right? It's like he would just get tired, and it was always after working really hard. So it was interesting because him drinking actually meant that he was going to calm down and mellow out. And he usually, also I need to change this music, otherwise I'm going to get taken down. But yeah, so like my dad would chill out with the beers instead of, getting crazy, because he already was so high strung and stressed out with work. So yeah, there was that. And that is just one. So it's like, oh yeah, I could see how you are the way you are, Gigi. And it's like, that's not even like, that's like 25% of like my issues. There are so many more, because then there was like the religious aspect of it, right? So to kind of bring everything together, I talked about, I left a voice memo on the Discord today, right? And also I love that. I love your message. Please use my government name, Requiem. I don't identify. Why did you change your name? So yeah, so then with the religious stuff, right? Anyway, let me go back a little bit. What's up, Katie? Chicka chicka slim Katie. How's it going? So on the voice memo that I left over on the Discord this morning, I talked about how the podcasts have been really like chill, and it's because they used to be 3 hours long, and now they're only 2, right? So you were summoned by the religious trauma. All right, well we're about to dig deep. So settle in, all right? So yeah, so I talked about how my recent podcast that I do over on the Patreon, they used to be about 3 hours, right? And I had a lot of segments and I had a lot of fun because I would talk about, I'd have all like my movies or like games or books that I've read, and it was really fun. But then I would do a featured presentation, and that would be like a really long part of the podcast. And I really enjoyed editing that part, especially when I was talking about movies, because then I would like cut in little snippets of audio and scenes from the movie, right? And it was pretty cool. But over time, it got a little bit too much, right? It's just the work on editing the podcast was like, no, I don't want to do this. So now I've just kind of foregone doing a featured presentation on the podcast. But 2 months ago, or last month, beginning of last month, I think, was when the Michael Jackson movie came out. So I saw it. And I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. But then I kind of got tired out. Like in my notes, I was going to talk about it, right? And yeah, so I was going to talk about it. Hey there, Hookie Frog. How's it going? But then when I got to the part of the podcast where I was going to talk about, the Michael Jackson movie, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've already talked for so long. My voice is tired. I don't have any more days to record for the podcast. So maybe I'll talk about it next month. And the next month was the podcast that released today, this morning. And I didn't talk about it because the same thing happened. I kind of ran out of time, and I also just was kind of over it. Because sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes you'll feel like you want to talk about something really badly, and you're really feeling something, but then imagine somebody just says, oh yeah, I'm busy, but tell me later. And then you're about to do it, you're about to talk some stuff with somebody, really important stuff, and then they're like, I'm busy, I'm tired, tell me later. Only I was the one doing that. I was doing that to myself. Because I was busy and I couldn't really get into it. And so I wanted to talk about the Michael Jackson movie, right? Because I feel ever since I watched the Jackson 5 movie, the little miniseries movie that came on back in the day, in the 90s, I used to relate so hard to Michael Jackson's upbringing, right? And his family and everything like that, right? And so with his dad and how he was and just how forceful he was. Only there was no happy ending where I became the king of pop and I ruled the world. None of that happened. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about that movie because Michael Jackson is a bit of a controversial figure. Because of the allegations put against him, right? So it can be really hard, right, to watch a movie where there's super serious allegations about somebody, because then you're like, oh, this guy may be super popular. He may be this thing, right? Super talented, but these allegations are incredibly serious and so on and so forth. And so it's also really hard, too, when nothing was ever substantiated, right? Nothing ever came out in terms of evidence of actual stuff. So a lot of it is just hearsay. It's just this is one of the most, popular, talented people in the entire world. It's very easy for people to put a target on his back. On top of, because it's, when people are famous and whatever, it's pretty easy to do that, right? It's oh, well, I'm going to get something out of this person. But it's, even if it's not true, you still have to, try to listen a little bit to, as always, right? When you have victims of crimes, you do want to not just be I like this person too much. His voice and his music is so influential. Man, I'm just going to completely avoid all of this controversy, right? It's well, that's not really responsible either. So when I talk about Michael Jackson, I love Michael Jackson as an artist, right? And I relate to him when it comes to his story. Because it is full on, it is my story. As outside of the music part, it is my story. So I relate to it hardcore. And so, well, if you've seen Kai, if you ever want to watch a movie, if you don't want to watch the newer movie, you can always go back and watch the Jackson 5 movie. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing in that movie that is oh, this isn't what happened. It's it's pretty straightforward what happened. It's not because I know I forgot who it was. It might have been Janet who said that she didn't really like it that much. And I don't know why, because it was literally some of the brothers sound they signed off on stuff, you know what I mean? And they were there, right? And Janet was a little kid, so they signed off on it, and literally his nephew is playing him, right? So it goes to show that, yeah, some of this shit happened, right? But of course, so much with the movie can be kind of fictionalized in a way for the sake of it just being a movie, right? That's why I think I like the Jackson 5 movie a little bit more, because it's longer. They didn't have to cut things, and it's more of a family drama than a feel-good story. But what was I gonna say? I understand that, but it's also not a documentary. It's Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly my point there. Yeah. So the Jackson 5 movie is pretty straight on with what it is. But one of the things that I always kind of talked around, and I never really was specific with it, and I never really knew why I wasn't specific with it. It just kind of was my thing. But I always talk about religious trauma, but I never went into what religion it was. And I've talked to certain people and I tell them what it is, but I never at large said, what religion it was. But I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, okay? So when we're talking about like doomsday cults, that's what we're talking about. We're like on a level of like, oh, these people are fucking weird, right? Because on top of like the Saturdays being hijacked from me as a kid from the working stuff that my dad did, it's also that my Sundays were like hijacked too, and my Mondays and my Wednesdays or Thursdays and also my Saturdays, because like on the days that we didn't go work with my dad, we were preaching door to door. So that was happening. Then on Sundays we had to go to church, which in J-Dub, that's another, there's a lot of lingo. So like I call it J-Dub, right? Instead of saying Jehovah's Witness, it just sounds so technical to say the whole name out loud. So J-Dubs, their church, what they say is they go to meetings, which it's funny when you're in it, you're like, oh, meetings actually sounds better than church, because you're trying to like differentiate yourself from other religions. But then now that you're like, when you're out of it, it's like, no, meetings sound super culty. What the fuck are we doing? Right? So there's that. So, yeah, so you would go to your meetings, and the meetings are not like fucking... The meetings are not like when people go to church. You know what I mean? When people go to church, they do they sit down, they listen to the sermon, and they do their little, depending on what, flavor of church you're going to, you'll like have your little cracker and your thing, and then you move on, right? But J-Dub church, which is the meetings, you have to study. You listen to an hour-long talk first, which is super boring. And when I was a kid, they were 45 minutes. Over time, they made them shorter because they started losing members, and so they tried to make it shorter. So there is that. Then you have to study for the Watchtower, which everybody knows about the Watchtower, right? When you see people going door to door, or you see them standing on a corner, they have their magazines, it's their own little flavor of stuff, right? And so they have two versions of the Watchtower. They have the public edition, and then they have a study edition. And so the study edition is the one that gets studied at the meetings. And it has more of like technical language. It's not that different than the public ones. It's just meant for like, oh, if you're a member, this just makes more sense to you, right? And anybody can attend meetings. So like the public can go see what the study versions are like. It's just the public wouldn't be able to study them because they wouldn't know where to study, kind of. It's kind of complicated. It's very simple, but also complicated, because somebody in the public would be like, why would I have to study a magazine? Don't you just believe? Yes and no. Because J-Dubs would always say, oh, we're not out here trying to convert people. And that is the biggest fucking like 1,000 degree a lie, because the entire purpose of being a J-Dub is literally to try to convert people. So growing up, you have to go to these meetings where you do have to sit there for 45 minutes, listen to the sermon thing. Then you do another 45 minutes with the studying. And I've been studying J-Dub stuff since I was a child, since I was like, I think 5. So for Sundays, you do that. And then there's a question and answer portion. So in the magazine, you have a person who's on the stage who's like conducting it. So he's kind of like leading the whole thing. And then there's someone who's reading the paragraphs from the magazine. Then after the paragraph is read, they ask the questions for the audience to be like, oh, okay. So like for those who studied, do you have an answer? And so ever since you're a kid, you're told, oh yeah, have an answer prepared. And the more you answer, the more like spiritual you seem to the rest of the congregation, right? So you seem more like if you just sit there on your own, right, and never talk, then it kind of be like, well, this person's not much of a witness, as they say. It's like, what kind of Christian is this guy, right? Or a family. Right? For instance, let's say you have like a family of 4 or 5, and the parents are there. They never raise their hand to answer a question, and none of the kids studied. They're just maybe making a lot of noise because they're kids, and I mean, what the fuck, right? They're kids. They should be making noise. And so if they are not being involved, it can also be, seen as a thing. So yes, you can still go to the meetings, you can still be there for all of it, but if you don't participate, you're also seen as like kind of like a bad J-dub, right? And yes, performative. That's what it is. OMG, I bet it was great during COVID. Nope. Fun fact, they used the internet and public city website to find people's addresses. Then they'd find people on Facebook. Right? Yes. Yes. All of that. Are we allowed to swear or say things in chat, or do you have... Oh, you can swear. Swear all you want. So that's how I grew up, right? And then people, most people, when they go to church once per week, right? It's like a Sunday thing, and then usually their family goes out to eat and whatever. Well, in J-Dub land, you have a minimum quota of hours you're supposed to preach to people per month. And the quota is based off the average of all of the time that everybody does. So if, let's say, you have 100 people in that congregation and the average is 10 hours, then it's expected that you are going to also preach 10 hours. And so you have to actually go and do that, right? So that's what happened, right? And so we would do 2 hours on Saturday. And so if you do 4 times a month, that's 8 hours. And you still have to make up another 2. So sometimes you might go to the meeting on Sunday, and then you might have a group of people being like, oh, we're going to go out for another hour. And so you do that 2 extra Sundays. So it's like not even going to church, and then that's it. It's like, no, you have to keep going, right? Okay. That's not it. Then there are 2 additional meetings during the week. Now, ever since I've left, since I was like a late teenager, they eventually like merged some of these, so there weren't that many. But I remember there was one on Mondays and there was one for Thursdays, and it changes. It depends on like your location, because there's multiple congregations and they share the same like the actual physical space, so they have to schedule around this, right? But I remember for a long time it was like Mondays and Thursdays. So, the Sunday scaries? When people hang their fish? Yes, what the fuck is this for real? Also, thank you so much for the 15 months. Oh my gosh. So imagine you have your Sunday scaries as a kid because you have to go to school on Monday, but it wasn't just school. It's like, oh shit, I have to get home from school, do my homework, and then get ready to go to another meeting. And usually some of these meetings were at like people's homes. Because they were kind of like put into smaller groups. And what that was meant to do was to kind of force people to make smaller communities. So that way you could be like, more closer to each other, like more tight knit. So there's that, right? And then on Thursday, that was where you go back and you meet at the official place, right? The official like church place. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was a full 2 hours, and that was a different, you also had to study for that one. And I think that one, oh my gosh, I just unlocked a memory. Okay. When I say you had to study, okay, check this shit out. So for that meeting, there was 2 parts. There was it's called the Theocratic Ministry School. Okay. The Theocratic Ministry School, where people are assigned. You are assigned things to study, prepare, and then perform. So, the way it works is the way how like Jehovah's Witness like the inside of the church basically is set up is there's the main hall. It's like a main auditorium, so it kind of just looks like what you think of like freaking I don't know, like an auditorium in a school, kind of. Only it's a little bit smaller, right? It can probably seat maybe like 150 people. So there's that, right? And then you have 2 back rooms that are, there's like a glass. So that way people, if multiple events are happening at the same time, people can sit in that one, things can happen, and they can turn the sound off and put the blinds up. So that way they can kind of do something else in there while the meeting is happening. Also, yes, Fish, the big reveal. And yes, a talent show. I wish it was a talent show. Hey there, Irene. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate you. So yeah, the Theocratic Ministry School was basically when there was 3 parts to it. There was like from what I remember, it was like a Bible reading. So like there would usually be a kid or somebody who just barely joined and needed practice reading. And so they would read a part of the Bible just straight through. And it probably takes 2 minutes, maybe. And because the hall is broken up into different, like a bigger auditorium and smaller ones, they would break it up so that way you could have like maybe smaller kids or inexperienced people be in a smaller room full of people, maybe like 20 people. And in the other one, you have maybe a little bit people who are a bit more experienced and they are in the main auditorium, right? So you have that. That's the first part. Then the second part usually would be like 2 women doing literally like a talent show thing, like literally performing what a Bible study would look like. So you would have one person who's called the placeholder. No, is it called what were they called? Not the placeholder. They were called oh my gosh, I forgot what they were called. They weren't the placeholder. They were called the something holder. Was it the householder? Householder. That's the person you're talking to. Yes. You had the person who was like doing the actual talking, and then you had the householder. So the person being graded, because yes, this was fucking graded. Are you kidding me? So imagine you have 2 women. One of them is like conducting a Bible study, and she would then ask like a friend of hers to be like, hey, you want to be my householder in this part? Okay, cool. And the person doing the actual talking is the one being graded. And then they would basically perform a little skit. And it's kind of meant to show you how you can try to convince people to take this shit. And then after you're done with your part, so let's imagine those 2 women, they're like on the stage and either they're standing talking to each other, they have these microphones, or they're at a little table and it makes it look like they're sitting at a table, right? And after that, the conductor person goes up and he goes, oh my gosh, Sister so-and-so, I really loved how you did this thing, blah, 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 blah. Tonight you were working on council point number blah, 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 which was use of assigned material. And yes, it would see here that what you used was this book, and this book really goes into it. And I loved how you did this thing. And when she asked you about this thing, you had a response ready to go. So as we can see, we can all benefit from Sister so-and-so's example because she did. So I'm going to mark you good job on that one, and we'll move you on to your next council point. Like, it was that. Okay. Then the third part, because there was 3 parts on this school. It usually would be another sister part, so it'd be like two women up on the stage doing the same thing, or it would be a dude, because of course, religion, we have to have gendered roles, right? The women cannot be up on there giving sermons, but the dudes can. The women, if they're up there, they have to be talking to each other. So yeah, fuck that shit. Anyway, so the number 3 talk would basically be basically, they said that it was sister or brother landmine because they tried to make it seem like we're all like a family. That's kind of the way it's said, like a spiritual family. That's kind of how it goes. Oh, yeah, exactly, Papo. God's children, that kind of thing. So the number 3 talk usually would be like a dude or a brother, and it would be a mini sermon. So rather than the sermons that are like 20 or 45 minutes long, they would be like 5 to 8 to 10 minutes long. It just depended. From what I remember, I think they were closer to 5 or 8, I think. And also timing was really important. Everything had to line up perfectly with their timing. And so I remember when I was a kid growing up and being assigned the number 1 talks, which was just doing the Bible readings. And I did them in the back, again, with like 20 people. Or I did them later on when I was a teenager, and I did them in front of like 100 and some people. And whenever there's a kid, everyone claps because it's like, oh, such a good little Christian boy or whatever. And then later on, when I was like older, I was doing number 3 talks. And so that's me actually giving a talk. It's like, basically, it's like, oh, you're given like this little sheet. And it's like, oh, in 3 weeks, you need to prepare this talk because your council point is going to be modulation. You need to be able to know how to modulate your voice. Or it could be like microphone usage. Or it could be like enunciation. It could be like experimentaneous delivery also. That was a word that I always remember from there. And now you guys know why I talk the way I do, right? Why I talk so clearly and I have the little radio voice and all that shit. It's because that I was trained in that thing, right? And I spoke in front of groups. Like, I remember on top of these meetings, I used to go literally door to door and talk to strangers and present publications, right? And try to get them to, be interested, right? So it's like, on top of, like, again, my weekends being stolen from me, it's like, oh, not only do you have to go, it's called service too, field service, when you go witnessing to people, like street preaching. As a kid, imagine it's like you have like a school project where you have to talk in front of the class, only it's multiple times per week, every week. And remember how I said like there's a minimum quota of how many hours you have to do? It rolls over at the next month. So you then have to start all over. This was just my upbringing, Landmine. I am not religious at fucking all now. So, yeah. So imagine the pit of your stomach dropping when you're just like a kid, maybe 12, 13, and you already have to deal with middle school and everything. And then you're at one of these church events and this one dude comes up to you and goes, hey, you have a part coming up on the Theocratic Ministry School. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. Right? And so then, yes, exactly. I was like MJ, but instead of singing, I wasn't doing anything cool. I was being taught to do this other shit. I was telling people the world was going to end. So yeah. So on top of all of this, J-Dubs also have, of course, Landmine, you get some rest. I will try my best to not get too animated, but I get animated talking about all this. On top of going to the weekly meetings, and again, it's not weekly, it's like tri-weekly, which I don't even think that makes sense. That's every 2 weeks. No, this is like 3 times per week. On top of then going in field service, right? So all of that, right? We then would have conventions to go to. And the conventions, I believe, happened 3 times a year? It might have been 4. I can't remember at the time. There was this main one that always happened during summer. That's the biggest one. It's like a 3-day convention where you're literally at a convention center sitting there for like freaking 6-8 hours or whatever, listening from talk to talk to talk to talk, and everybody's taking notes as if they're actually gonna read their fucking notes ever again. And I was in this religion until I was 30. So, because I was a true believer, because again, as a kid, I was indoctrinated since I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I fully believed it. I was very invested in it, all that stuff, right? So for all of my 20s, I became somebody who was like more in it, right? I became an official member because in J-Dub land, you don't just become a member by just attending meetings. You have to study a book. You have to answer these questions. You then get baptized as an adult, and then from there, you're an official member, which then you are subject to the rules. And those rules are very heavy if you ever decide you want to leave. I don't know. I don't think believing in ghosts necessarily means that you're an atheist or not. I think let's put that in the other category. Because just because if you believe in ghosts doesn't necessarily mean that you might believe in a higher power God. It could just mean that we can't explain ghosts, right? So, I eventually got to have responsibilities within my congregation. I moved from congregation to congregation over time once I became a full member, and I moved out of like my parents' home and stuff like that. And I used to give parts at the meetings all the time. I eventually got to, remember how I said the study portions where you have the watchtower and you have the conductor and then you have the reader on the stage. I used to be the person reading the magazine in front of like the 100 to 200 people, like reading each paragraph. So I used to be really good at reading. So ever since I was younger, people have always said, hey, you should read audiobooks, which is really interesting because as J-dubs, you're not really supposed to like encourage people to do fucking like read actual books outside of like J-dub books. So I don't know what they were saying. I never got to be an overseer or anything like that, Kitty. I was in charge of the sound department for a little bit in my congregation. So I used to get there early. I used to get to the meeting 1 hour early before everybody else. I used to go into like the storage and get all the microphones out. I used to get everything good to go with the soundboard, make sure the levels were good. Later on, they started using monitors, and the monitors would be used to like help with like when they would sing, the lyrics would be on the monitors. So it would keep everybody to look forward. Also, if you watch the original Jackson 5 movie, there is a scene of Michael Jackson and his family at the Kingdom Hall. The Kingdom Hall is the word that J-dubs use for their church. And you see them holding the actual books that I used to have when I was a kid, the song books that J-dubs had. And you see him and his family singing at the meetings. So again, I grew up literally in the exact same way that MJ did. Little fun fact, there are cut scenes from the new movie of him going door to door when he was famous, but for one reason or another, they cut it out. You can actually, I think they publicized some pictures of those scenes, like when the movie was coming out, but then those scenes got cut out. And there are still scenes of him wearing the same clothes from the scene in which he's supposed to be going door to door, but if you didn't know what happened previously, you wouldn't think anything of it. So yeah, it's interesting. But what else? Yeah, I used to be part of the sound department. They wanted you to do J-dub audiobooks. I wanted to at some point. Like, the whole thing is J-dub headquarters is in New York. They have literally their own fucking compound. Like, not even fucking kidding. And one of the things that actually first made me start questioning everything was, ever since you're a kid, they kind of encourage you to go to the headquarters because they want you to see how it's made. They used to tell parents, don't take your kids to Disneyland, take them to HQ, take them to the headquarters, take them to New York, and they can see how it's done. And they have these huge factories where they literally print their own magazines, and everybody working on those premises are J-dubs. Where they write the magazines. They have writers where they do the art. There's an art department. There's a sound department. There's a music department. They also have little movies that they make, literally like with actors that are all J-dubs. Yes, and it was called Bethel, Kitty. Yeah, so I remember I went to Bethel to visit, to go see it. And I remember going there. I saw some people who were there who I knew. I got behind the scenes tours too, like a tour bigger than other people got because I knew people who were there. And I remember coming home from going to the headquarters. This was like in 2015, I want to say. And I remember being like, I got depressed. I got full on depressed. And I didn't understand why. I ended up not going to meetings for like 2 months. And I remember I had like people from my congregation like literally being like, leaving me messages and voicemails being like, are you okay? Is everything fine? Blah, 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 blah. And in the end, I kind of realized that like going to the headquarters is the highest thing that you can do, right? That is the ceiling of being a J-dub, right? Like, you can be there's like levels, right? You can be an elder and you can oversee a local congregation in your area. But when you're younger, they kind of try to push you and encourage you to do more. So that way you could do something at headquarters. Maybe they could use you internationally. So I remember what ended up getting me out of the funk was in 2016, I went to Japan, and I went to Japan with my friends, my J-Dub friends. And we went to Japan. It was fun. It was great. And when we came back, I was like, I know what I want to do. I want to preach in Japan. I would love to learn Japanese so that way I can move to Japan and I can preach there. And I think that will get me out of my funk. I think I don't want to grow bigger in my local congregation. I would just like to go there, especially once I went to Japan and I saw how much I loved the culture and how like quiet it was. And if you're a J-Dub, oh my gosh, Japan is like everything you could ever want because everybody is so well organized. They're so clean. Everyone's really quiet. And that's all being a J-Dub is. Being a J-Dub is all about just submitting to the people above you and just, you know, doing your thing. So that's what happened, right? And then in 2016, I started attending a congregation in Las Vegas that was a Japanese congregation. It was a very small congregation. It was maybe like 20 people total, and maybe 6 of them were actually native Japanese people who even had trouble speaking English, and the rest of the people in that congregation just wanted to learn Japanese, right? Because they also had like aspirations like me to maybe one day go international and preach there. And when that happens, it's like they'll give you money to live there. They might even set you up with like a host family and you can work for them. So you see why like religious things, they get people, right? Because like things are paid off and whatever. So that happened, right? But then there was like this internal politics that happened around 2016, 2017, I want to say, where I didn't go to my actual local congregation, and instead I went to the Japanese one. And apparently I was assigned something on the Theocratic Ministry School, and I didn't go. But I didn't even know I had something on the schedule because I hadn't gone. And I had told somebody else who was in charge. And the lead dude of that congregation like pulled me aside and he gave me a talking to. And I got really upset. I ended up telling my dad. And my dad was still in my original congregation. And he was like, oh, that guy? I've known that guy for like 30 years. That guy sucks. Like, no, man. And so ended up talking to the lead guy of the congregation I grew up in, because you're assigned where you're supposed to go based on where you live. Think of like school, right? Like, oh, and the reason why is attendance. It's like, oh, we only have so many seats. We can't fit that many people. We need like, we can't have people just going to different places just because they don't like it there. They need to support their local place. But then the higher guy, he's called the overseer, or I don't even think they call him that anymore. Now they call him the coordinator, which sounds really ominous. The coordinator. He straight up talked to me because the other guy who talked shit about me going to the Japanese congregation, he was the coordinator of the other congregation. So this other coordinator, he was like, yo, screw that shit. Come back to this congregation. We can use you. You know, you're part of the sound department. You can do all this stuff. You can go to the Japanese congregation and do all this stuff. It's fine. And I was like, all right, cool. So I ended up going back to my original congregation that I grew up in. And by that point, I'd already grown up a lot. And so a lot of like the families and the people who had been there since I was a kid were still there. A lot of my friends, I got to hang out with a lot of people, all that stuff. And then some other personal stuff happened throughout 2017, like really personal stuff. And it just made me question things a lot more. And eventually, I decided, you know what? I am going to go on Reddit. And this is actually one of the first times I went to Reddit ever. I didn't, because Reddit wasn't like a big thing. But I remember going to Reddit. This is like 2017, I think? I'd already been to Reddit a few times, but like I didn't go there like habitually. And I went to the XJW subreddit. And I started seeing people, yes, exactly, it was my enlightenment. People question the religion. And started throwing questions out there of like things I couldn't answer. Things I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like what about this? What about this? Whatever doctrine or maybe policy within the religion. And so I remember my parents talked to me, and they made a big deal about like me leaving, and then I was still like in it. Like I still believed it. And then I remember them talking to the coordinator. Again, the coordinator. And he was a cool dude. That guy was great. That guy was fantastic, because I don't want to talk shit about the individual people, because they all were great people. They're all just being brainwashed and duped and all this stuff, right? But that coordinator legit had my back. And like later on, when my dad got cancer, he paid for his entire treatment because he owned a company. He owned like an electric company, so he kind of had money. He paid for his entire cancer treatment for like years, because my family couldn't afford it. All the way up until my dad passed away. So like that guy was a real one. He was like this super tall black dude. Like I love that guy. He was so cool. But I remember him talking to me. I went to my last like meeting, and he asked me if I could stay after because he wanted to talk to me. And we went to the back and we talked. And I kind of knew. I was like, I think that's it. I don't think I'm coming back, you know? And then I left, and I never went back. And that was October 2017, I want to say, something like that. I still had a lot of like, I believed it. So I just felt like, oh man, I'm going to fucking die. And it took a few, I would say maybe months. It didn't take years for me. And I remember going on the XJW subreddit, connecting with people, watching a lot of YouTube people of like people who like, you know, went through the same thing as me. And I remember asking myself, like, how was I able to get out of all this brainwashing so easy? And I said to myself, I think it's because I always wished it wasn't true. In the back of my head, I just always wanted it to not be true. I wanted it to be fake. Because ever since I was a kid, since you're like 5 years old, being told that the kids you go to school with, they're going to die any one of these days because, you know, the world's going to end, right? Don't make friends with people because they're going to die or they're just going to lead you astray, right? You need to have spiritual friends. And I remember one time I was studying and this one guy told me, what's a friend? And I was like, oh, it's someone you play with. And he's like, no, a friend is somebody who will get you close to God, right? And in J-Dub culture, Jehovah, right? Jehovah's the name of God. So it'd be like someone who makes you close to Jehovah. And I was like, oh, okay. You know? So growing up like that, you always have a distance between you and the people around you. Like everybody around you, right? Relatives too. Relatives who are not part of the religion. And so my mom, we were originally from Mexico. And we moved to the States when I was like 2. But my family and everybody in my family outside of my mom lives still in Mexico. And it was like a 5-6 hour drive. So I never got to spend time with my family because there was no Christmases, there was no holidays, there was none of that because Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate holidays. So I only have like one memory of Christmas as like a 4-year-old. I have like one memory of Halloween as a 4-year-old. And then after that, I never celebrate anything again. I don't have a single memory of celebrating my birthday as a kid. I didn't celebrate my first birthday until fucking like 2018 or something like that. So all of that, you know, I didn't have a lot of experience with the world, you know, at large, because when you're in that religion, you're in a bubble. You know, you're in this bubble where you are kept separate. We weren't allowed to have political beliefs either, because we were like, oh, what does the Bible say, right? What does the Bible say? The Bible says this, so you need to do what the Bible says. We don't have to worry about politicians and things like that. So growing up, I had no political beliefs. I didn't understand government at all. I wanted to become an animator, so I went to school to be an animator. And that was a contentious point when I was like 18. I moved away. And everybody in my congregation got mad at me because I moved away, being like, they're going to lead you astray, blah, 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 blah. And I went to school. I didn't finish college. I did not finish college. I left early because I couldn't afford it and I had no support. So I lived in California for a few years while I was in college and while I was out because I had to just survive. And eventually I did move back. And then that was when I got really serious with the religion because I had nothing else. And when you're in the religion, they don't encourage you or want you to be anything to aspire any sort of career whatsoever. Right? So like going to college, learning any skills like that, they mostly want you to be a tradesman, like, be a plumber, be a roofer, be an electrician, something like that, right? All the arts was kind of seen as a bad thing, right? So yeah, and here I was I was a super artsy kid. Like I said earlier, like I loved my when I eventually did become part of the congregation and everything like that, I was part of the sound department because I love behind the scenes stuff. People liked the way how I talked, so I used to read the magazines and I used to do my little speech things, my little sermon thingies that I hated. I remember I used to get incredible panic attacks because I used to get super nervous in front of people. I remember I almost fainted on stage once. That was horrible. And so when people ask me, like, new VAs in this space, they'll be like, how do you get over like talking or hearing yourself? And in my head, I'm like, this is the easiest thing in the world. Because it's just me. I'm just recording in my room. You know what I mean? Versus like being in front of like 20 to 100, 200 people. Also, I didn't talk about this. I talked about the conventions earlier. I also gave a part at a convention. So I gave a part and I spoke in front of like 3,000 people at one of those conventions. So I remember one time on Blue Sky, I think there was like this trend going around that said like 3 truths and 1 lie. And one of my truths was I have performed something in front of thousands of people on stage. And that was one of my truths because I actually did do that. But it's those things where I'm like, when I look back on my life, I see 2 completely different people. I see who I am now, and I see this other person that was not allowed to be a human being. Because, like what some people were saying a little bit earlier, you're not allowed to feel. You're not allowed to experience. Everything is sinful. Everything is sinful. Everything. Right? Everything imaginable. Because on top of that, like as J-Dubs, we used to talk shit about other religions because other religions like, yeah, can you believe they allow their members to do that? Like, no. We don't fucking do anything because, we're supposed to be the most, spiritual, right? So there was like no fun allowed, like ever. And again, remember talking about the appearances and like being performative? It was like, oh, you had the more spiritual people. They didn't allow their kids to watch anime or play certain video games or watch certain movies. And if people found out that your family was okay with those things, then they would kind of like put you in this own little category on the side. Be like, oh yeah, they're J-Dubs, but they're not like, they're not like committed. You know what I mean? So they were like super judgy on top of everything. And my family was not super hardcore with like, oh, you can't watch this, you can't play this. My parents were, for the most part, they let me, but there were like hard stances. Like I couldn't play Resident Evil or Grand Theft Auto. Couldn't watch like rated R movies, things like that. But like anime was fine until it wasn't. Until like I would do something that they wouldn't like, something very normal. I remember I had a crush on a girl in middle school and I wrote her name in a notebook just literally in a notebook. And my mom takes out this notebook randomly one day and she's like, who's this? And I'm like, and we have like a talking to, like a full on talking to be like, you promised that you were going to be a good, blah, 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 whatever. And it wasn't like this nice, like, me, oh, how cute, such a teenager. It's like, this person's gonna fucking lead you astray. Mind you, this girl doesn't even fucking know I exist. You know what I mean? So it's like that kind of stuff, right? So then over time, you don't know what you like. You don't know what's out there. you don't have the same experiences as other people around you. So, like when Bappo was saying earlier, when I would get mad, it's not that I would get mad at people. It was just like that thing. It's all like, I didn't have a life the way other people had lives, right? It's like, and people have problems, right? But it's all like, I didn't have a nice dad. I didn't have a mom who stuck up for me. Like, I didn't even have Saturdays. You know what I mean? Something so tiny, right? A Saturday. Didn't even have that. Because whether it was working or going to school or being literally like spied on all the time by my parents, or doing all the spiritual things, which as you guys can see, when I talk about my dad taking me to work, that's like, oh yeah, that's like nothing compared to the rest of this shit. The working stuff with your dad, that's what I'm saying, that like when I saw that reel, I'm laughing, but I'm also like, oh, you guys have no idea. You guys are, oh yeah, can you help me do this thing? My dad never asked anything. You were doing it. And then after that, we were going to go to the meeting, and then we were going to do all this shit. So it's like, no, we didn't grow up the same. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say that. You know what I mean? I am not belittling other people's experiences, but mine was the traumatic part that people already are traumatized about, plus 75% more other things. And so my whole VA journey has been me, and not just VA journey, but it's like ever since I left, which is again, end of 2017. It's been a discovery of myself. Because, you know, when people say like, oh, when you're a teenager, you're kind of learning your body, and then you're learning like how people are with each other, with groups and friends and social stuff. I didn't get that. Like, I didn't get any of that. You know? And then when I was a teenager, same thing in high school. And then in college, I didn't experiment at all like the way normal people do. Like, I had roommates in the apartment I lived in, but I remember, I was telling just somebody the other day that I was like, I remember seeing beer in the fridge and being like, thinking it was like a bomb in there. When people would smoke or smoke weed, I would just like leave. I'd be like, oh, I'll be back later, you know, because I still had this thing in my head. I even used to go to meetings out there when I lived in California because I would feel guilty, right? And so I never had that chance to like experiment or just be a person on my own. And I didn't do that until like my late 20s, like just about almost 30, you know? So then by that point, it's like, I'm 30 years old and I have to start life all over again. And and I forgot to tell you guys, when you leave the J-Dub religion, you lose everybody. So everybody leaves. Like, you're cut off fully. So all your friends, like, just delete you. You're blocked. Your family blocks you. Everything. So when I say, like, I started life all over again, I started life at zero. Imagine, like, I was telling somebody the other day, you know that new Spider-Man movie where nobody remembers Peter Parker? I was like, that is me. I am Peter Parker post, what the fuck was it called? The last movie where everybody forgot who he is? That was me. I had to start all over again with no one. And that was why it was easy to move out of Vegas, because there was no way I was going to live in Vegas and run into people that I knew, you know, because they'll see you and then just literally just walk the opposite way, you know, because you're like shunned. So it was a whole thing, man. I can only imagine, Kitty, that look. Fuck that look. So yeah. And now we're here. Where my batteries died because I can't play Red Dead. And I can't play Red Dead, so because of that, that's how we got here. And yeah, that's the other thing, Nina. It's like I see the experiences of other people, and so many like ex-J-Dubs, they either like take their lives or they turn to hardcore drugs or some sort of vice because they literally have no control. They have nobody, right? They have nobody, so they have to start all over again, and they have no control because they were never allowed to do things, so they kind of go crazy, right? So I didn't do any of that, right? I was able to kind of keep myself on my own 2 feet, and that's one thing that I feel pretty good about. But yes, exactly like Bappo. So that's why I can relate a lot to Michael Jackson. And so then when you think of Michael Jackson, like the way I just said, when you're like, oh yeah, he's very controversial figure, you also have to imagine that everything I just said, he did as well. On top of the singing, on top of all the part of the movie where you see his dad whipping him because of his singing, he also had to give parts on the Theocratic Ministry School. He also had to read from the thing. He also had to go in field service. He also had to go to all those meetings. He also had to feel socially ostracized. And then you understand why he made Neverland. You know what I mean? Because he never had a childhood. He never had anything, right? He literally just grew up, you know, as a little dude because he could sing well, right? And that was it. So it's those things where it's like, oh, that makes sense. And it doesn't, you know, explain away some of the more weirder stuff, right? Again, with the controversies, but it does make you understand things a lot more, you know? It does put things into perspective of like, oh shit, that dude really didn't have a childhood at all. Like that would fuck up anybody, right? So that's when it starts to be like, oh, okay. So you can go on YouTube. You can even look up like interviews of Michael Jackson and also like when he first celebrated Christmas and he cried, not because he was happy, but because he was really guilty. Like he talks about it. There's other celebrities who also talk about it too, because they also felt guilty because they're like, oh shit, like we fucking broke him, because he kept all of that like guilt with him and shame even as an adult. Like it's fucking crazy, you know? Yeah, it's wild. Send the storm my way, landmine. I would like that. I've always said as a kid, if he was anywhere close to me, I would have genuinely been his friend and not taken advantage of him. Aw. Mark Jackson used to wake up in the middle of the night and record because if he didn't, the idea would be given to Prince. Also, a little fun fact, Prince was a J-dub. Prince became a J-dub in the last few years of his life because one of his bandmates was a J-dub, and like I think it was his drummer or something like that, and his grandma was it. Something like that. Yes, the shallow breathing. A J-dub is what I called Jehovah's Witnesses. That's the religion I grew up in. It was storming all afternoon. Aw. It was so hot here. Triple digits, man. Triple digits. Eject me from this place. As if I didn't grow up in Vegas and also had even hotter temperatures. Oh, man. I'm shocked Prince was because Prince was genderqueer. That was after. So he became a J-dub way later. So like after all of that stuff. It's 3 a.m. Oh gosh, it's so late for you, landmine. Shoot, and here I am happy in my win. No, that is exactly what you should be doing, Nina. You should be very thankful for that weather because it is so nice. Why don't monsters eat ghosts? Tell me. Just wanted to say again, but I'm really proud. Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yes, always, landmine. Tell us a dirty joke. Also, I'll be finishing up stream here in a little bit. Also, we've almost streamed for like literally almost 2 hours. Yes. That way, if ever one day I release a book, you guys can just fast forward all the way to the end because you guys already read it all. It's 62 degrees here right now. After a week of 100, it's a nice break. Oh, that sounds good. What do strippers and peanut butter have in common? Ooh, I don't know. Because they taste like okay, that's pretty good. They both spread for bread. All right, both of those are good. Both of those are good. Aw, thank you, Bard. Am I really? I always... Were you here earlier when my game just wouldn't work because I didn't charge my batteries and so we couldn't play Red Dead like I wanted to today? And instead we went down the therapy path? But I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bart. Seriously. I don't know. This streamer keeps misnaming me. Hey. I could say Requiem, but you said Boppo. Your name is Boppo right now. I wasn't Lamau, but I saw the last BG3 names. Oh my gosh, yes. Holy shit. That was a dumpster fire within a dumpster fire. Oh my gosh. Who cooks in the lesbian relationship? Ooh. Who is it? Who is it? It's so nice. It's supposed to be killer summer this year. I wonder if highways will buckle like... Oh, that sounds rough. Neither because they both... I have heard that one before. I have heard that one before. That one's good. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, learning a lot more about me. I think I'll be a little bit more forthright when I talk about certain things because I don't feel I have to like hide that part of myself. It's just all this stuff requires a lot of context. You know what I mean? Baby. So yeah, it's kind of hard to just be like, I grew up as this religion, and then people just do their assumptions. Like, no, you don't get it. You need to know all the ins and outs. And again, that's also glossing over a lot of other things. Like all my sibling relationships that I had that were all fucked up, me being the straight A kid and all my siblings being like little pieces of shit, and yet they were treated nicer than me. Whole thing, man, guys. So yeah, we'll get into it another time. Next time, I promise I'll have the batteries charged on the controller. So sorry for that. I will take your hugs, landmine. Oh, thank you guys. You guys are the best. Seriously. We shall conclude with a little bit of Animal Crossing music in the background. Yes, I should have a contingency plan. What's funny is the Red Dead was the contingency plan because originally I was going to do Baldur's Gate 3, but then I was like, oh, let's do Red Dead. And then, yeah, totally forgot. Maybe I should have done Mario Kart. Also, yes, Pro Controller. Now I know. Got it. Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good night, good day, good evening, good morning, wherever you might be. I hope you guys have a good one. Thank you guys for being so supportive, just listening to me. I know my life is an interesting one, but I thank you for being part of it. And thank you for allowing me to be part of yours. So, as always, you will hear from me soon enough. Take care now and bye.
His greed sickens me.